from Abuja.
Hello, thank you for being a part of our show. We appreciate you. I'm Magnus Kpakol, and this is Magnus Kpakol GVA, Global Views Africa. As you know, it's all about how we can raise the level of living. That's what it's all about. In view today, can Nigeria overcome the constraints it faces in the real sector of the economy? Where would the solutions come from in order to produce more goods and services, boost exports, shore up foreign reserves, and maintain a stable exchange rate with low inflation? Today we have Professor Joseph Nana on the sidelines of a Red in Africa lecture at the University of Abuja. Stay with us for this discussion. Don't go away. But before this, in our Hidden Economics, we look at how to be the one. Now, up next in our quick view, we rank key countries by productivity. That's coming right up. Quite often, people speak of productivity and economic competitiveness. But what is productivity? Productivity at the national level is typically defined and measured in terms of gross domestic product, GDP, per person, per employed person, or per hour worked. It is viewed by many as a key indicator of the economic health of a country. Generally, we look to rising productivity if we want to increase wage gains and even national wealth without causing inflation. So, ignoring possible environmental damage and social gaps, we often just look at economic productivity. In this connection, which of the following top 4 largest economies in the world has the highest rate of economic productivity? China, Germany, Japan, and the United States of America. Which of the following top petroleum exporting African nations has the highest rate of economic productivity? Algeria, Angola, Libya, and Nigeria. Stay with us for our answers coming up shortly. Still in view, Professor Joseph Nana of the Development Bank of Nigeria on real sector issues and the way out for Nigeria. But up next in our Hidden Economics, how to be the one.
I do it, make them mad over me. Find girls them plenty, but he leave them and he Josie. Him say as he know what a girl feet overthrow. I never do you corner. Nah, you my true lover. When I winter and summer, baby me no go fika. Me no go fika.
Oh my gosh, by the great Yemi Alade. Yemi Eberechi Alade, simply known as Yemi Alade, is a Nigerian Afro-pop singer, songwriter, and performer. In the song Oh My Gosh, featuring the inimitable Rick Ross, she praises her straightforwardness as being the reason she is the one. and why no other girl can overthrow her. She know they do kona kona, meaning she shoots straight, and that's why her man has chosen her over all the other fine girls, and even calls her my tomato jaws. Do you want to be called a tomato jaws? Be it as a lover or in business or perhaps even in politics. Well, try to shoot straight. Don't do corner corner. Don't dribble except you are JJ or Okocha and the game is soccer and you know what you are doing. So cutting to the chase, where is the economics in this? Well, it turns out that generally the cost to you of traveling down a straight line is lower than if you have to do a corner corner. And in addition, you are easy on the eye for those following you. People tend to believe someone, even a politician, who is thought to be an honest person. People estimate much lower costs and therefore losses when they believe and stick their neck out for the honest guy. And let's state it clear, the butcher that puts his thumb on the scale is not likely to get many repeat customers. People generally go for the chick, the dude, the mechanic, the doctor, the officer, and even the politician that they trust. So try to be the one. Don't do corner corner. It costs everyone more and pays very little to do that. Our hidden economics for you.
Hit up, huh? It's Rick Ross, caught a flight and jumped up the jet. AP, iced out the neck, 100 bottles, all at once. Lights come on, that's when I get done. Double up number one. Drop it down, shake it up some. Drop it down, shake it up some. Drop it down, shake it up some.
I know go do you corner, corner, corner. Nah, you my true lover. When I wake up, summer, baby, me no go fika, me no go fika. For you, I'm a no go area, no go area. Many toasters from my area, many toasters from my area, but I no give a pay.
Before we start our discussion, here are our quick view answers. The United States of America has the highest ranking in economic productivity of the top 4 largest economies in the world. Overall, the United States ranks at number 5 in the world in productivity, behind Luxembourg, Ireland, Norway, and Belgium in that order. Although ranking at number 6 overall in Africa, Algeria has the highest rate of economic productivity among the top 4 petroleum exporting countries in Africa. Overall, Nigeria ranks at number 17 in Africa. So how can we raise wages, incomes, and wealth in the country? What are some of the constraints facing the sector of the economy that produces goods and services? Of what effect is the micro, small, and medium enterprises in boosting national output and creating jobs? And does the Development Bank of Nigeria play any role? Today we have with us Professor Joseph Nnanna, Chief Economist at the Development Bank of Nigeria. We were privileged to catch up with him following his keynote address at the 5th edition of the quarterly Refined Economic Development Read in Africa lecture, which this time held at the University of Abuja. Before joining DBN, he was a tenured professor of business and economics at Northwestern Oklahoma State University in the United States of America. Please join us in our discussion with Professor Joseph Nnanna. Professor, very nice to have you on Magnus Kpakol GVA.
It's an honor to be here, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we are off-site today. We're not in our usual studios. We're here at the University of Abuja, and so we're pleased to have you.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. So we're gonna go straight to it. You are chief economist at Development Bank of Nigeria, DBN.
Yes.
I'm not sure that many average Nigerians know what DBN is. Quite honestly, maybe you think they do, but I'm not sure that they do. What is Development Bank of Nigeria?
Well, that's a good question, Professor Kpakol. If I may, the Development Bank of Nigeria is a wholesale bank. The way it was construed was by the federal government with the World Bank, KfW, which is German Development Bank, AFD, that's French Development Bank, European Investment Bank, and African Development Bank, if I haven't mentioned that already.
Yes.
So a pool of funds to the tune of 1.3 billion was used to set up
1.3 billion naira or dollars? US dollars.
1.3 US.
Okay.
1.3 billion US dollars.
Yes.
Was put together to try to factor in the access to finance constraint in Nigeria. So our bank was set up as a wholesale bank, if you will.
Yes.
Tier 2 lender to unlend to the micro, small, and medium enterprise space.
Okay.
We're not sector specific. That's the good thing about this. And we already know the MSMEs are the engine behind any economy.
Yes.
At least grows the economy.
Absolutely. So what is the, I haven't said that. What is the future of micro, small and medium enterprises in Nigeria? What is their future? Could they do without you? Well, what additional impetus do you bring to their growth?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
So I'm a hopelessly optimistic individual.
Okay.
So the future, in my view, is bright.
Okay.
So the financing gap of the micro, small, medium enterprise space is massive, in excess of 1 trillion naira. And the development finance institutions don't have enough funds put together to finance the needs of this segment. Talk less of the commercial and microfinance banks who are, for lack of a better term, hesitant or reluctant to unlend to this segment for many reasons. But crucially, I would say that they don't understand the business model of the MSME operators. Consequently, their reluctance to unlend to these individuals is there. And I understand that. That's why the DBN was actually created to help bridge, or serve rather, as a catalyst to ensure the financing gap is reduced.
Yes.
And that's obviously takes time, so we're working.
So who are your customers? You don't go directly to the micro, small, and medium enterprises.
That's another good point.
Yeah,
we don't.
Okay, so
who
comes to you for loans?
Good. Our primary customers are the commercial or microfinance banks.
So because that's exactly where I'm heading. I'm thinking if we're looking at real sector performance in the economy, the production of goods and services. So I mean, are you like measuring some quantitative number? Is there some number that you're looking at to say, okay, over every year we need to see
we have reported
in your econometric models and all that? Are you trying to say what coefficients? I guess is what I'm trying to say. What are you trying to look at? If we give 1 million of this, we get so much of jobs or something. Yes.
Fine. Good question.
Yeah.
So what we found out during our pilot monitoring evaluation exercise, for every 1 million naira, for every 1.1 million naira we disbursed, one job was created. But now that's a function of the sector they're operating, because we have labor-intensive sectors and capital-intensive sectors. For the capital-intensive sectors, more money was disbursed to those sectors, but less jobs were created because they were mechanizing their processes. However, in the labor-intensive sectors, more manpower. So you kind of see more of a critical mass of labor force participants.
Do you see yourselves more on the fiscal side of things because the Ministry of Finance is a parent organization or what? Or do you see yourself more allied with the CBN? The reason I'm asking this is because I think that the CBN is overburdened in the economy right now. That they are picking up a lot of what I think that the fiscal side should be doing. So much that I'm afraid they may put themselves into overdrive and have some mishap down the road. So but they've done a wonderful job. Picking up from where the fiscal side should have been more active. Sure. So do you see yourselves working more on behalf of the Ministry of Finance on the fiscal side, or you see they're complementing more what the CBN is doing?
Honestly, we see ourselves as the side for Nigeria.
Oh, okay, very good answer.
Okay. But that's honest truth.
Yeah.
Because in the end, we're here trying to develop every member of society in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So our 3 broad mandates on lending activities, capacity building for the commercial microfinance banks and the end beneficiaries. Yeah. And we do partial risk sharing credit guarantees, meaning that we're willing to take on up to 50% of the risk of the PFIs and by extension the end beneficiaries. What is in terms of what side we're on? There are no sides.
It's not important.
There are no sides.
What is financial inclusion to you? Is it just because you have a bank account and you have that's financial inclusion?
That to me is a very generic definition or explanation for financial inclusion. Financial inclusion dovetails around more so than just banking the unbanked.
Okay.
It requires financial literacy and management.
Yeah.
It requires actually understanding what different payment systems are available.
Yeah.
For instance, we can talk about the fintechs for a second. The fintechs are evolving. In other countries...
Oh, by the way, who are the fintechs? I mean, people say fintechs, for the sake of viewers, who are fintechs?
Well, fintechs are financial technology companies.
Okay.
They provide a type of service, whether it's through financial literacy or a way of paying for goods and services
like the
on your mobile
POS,
phone and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So I don't want to, give any one particular company
Absolutely, I got you.
some sort of headline, but they're there and they're doing very well.
Yeah.
So if you look at financial literacy, in my humble opinion, and financial inclusion, it's a function of the structure of the economy. So for everybody to be financially included, we have to have an economy that allows financial inclusion.
Yes.
For instance, look at the telcos in Nigeria. Look at the rural areas. There's so many parts of Nigeria that don't have access to a good network.
Yes.
So because of that, getting a phone that allows you to make calls becomes unattractive.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the Central Bank of Nigeria has done an admirable job in banking the unbanked and getting mobile agents and so on and so forth. But in the end, we need the fiscal authorities and the monetary policymakers to actually synchronize, speak in one voice, to push.
I like that. So what about, what do you think of a development summit? Development summit, since you're Development Bank of Nigeria, development summit that involves also our foreign partners and all the other development banks, because there are others.
Of course.
So have you guys ever thought of a development summit where we say, okay, let's talk and see what are the issues on the table, and then bring in academia, bring business people like I'm trying to do, looking at collaboration between academia, businesses, and policymakers?
The summit that you've proposed is actually a novel idea. It's actually not bad.
Yeah.
But I do believe there's some sort of, not a summit per se, but a meeting in the Central Bank of Nigeria, where the other financial institutions department pulls together development financial institutions to one room so we can talk about our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and so on.
Yeah.
And try to look for ways to ensure that we achieve our various respective mandates.
Yeah.
Because in the end, if we don't, then Nigeria suffers.
Yes.
Consider this. In terms of the summit, perhaps...
including academia and business people, not just development.
I agree. That right there is a more comprehensive way to capture the imaginations of the country. Because that way, you can see different perspectives of where actually the pains in people's shoes actually hurt. I agree. Perhaps that might be something we may want to think about proposing, I think. It's not a bad idea. Thank you.
Professor Nana, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
The Nigerian economy has suffered principally because of the real sector constraints that the nation faces. When economists speak of the real sector, they are usually referring to the part of the economy that is concerned with the production of goods and services, as opposed to the sector of policies, or the part of the economy that is concerned with buying and selling on the financial markets. In Nigeria, manufacturing contributes about 9% of the national output, which is often referred to as the gross domestic product, GDP. The mining and quarrying sector also contributes something in the region of 8 to 9% of GDP. Real estate's contribution is around 6%. Without mentioning all the sectors that include banking, communications, and others, agriculture provides by far the largest contribution to GDP at about 22%. So if we want to see how the economy is underperforming, we would need to examine the constraints facing each of these sectors. The main problems are obvious: very poor provision of electricity, inefficiency or poor governance, serious security issues, and a growing deficiency in human capital. All these are combining to aggravate the poverty situation. Very surprisingly, the PDP government somehow chose to scrap the National Poverty Eradication Program, as if playing the ostrich. With the recession that hit the nation in 2016, the poverty rate rose. Today, the World Poverty Clock estimates that about 92 million Nigerians are poor out of a total population of nearly 200 million people. Compare this with India, which has a population of about 1.3 billion and is said to have only about 45 million poor people. Sadly, the poverty clock suggests that in Nigeria, about 4 persons are dropping into poverty every minute, compared to about 20 persons escaping poverty every minute in India. From the statements being made, the federal government appears ready to face poverty in this second term of the APC government. However, I hope facing it means spurring productivity and diversifying exports, with mopping up using various safety net programs. Monetary policy, led by the Central Bank of Nigeria, has helped a lot in the past couple of years. The problem now is not monetary policy issues. It is really about how to face the constraints that reduce economic output and productivity. Let us get started. I'm Magnus Kpakol, and that's my view.